Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Obviously, anytime you have a non-required event, attendance is a surprise. So I want to thank everyone for being here. I specifically wanted to thank Dean Landetta for taking the time. I can only imagine, maybe we give you a vacation, right? And Dean Falconberry as well. So, and Jamie is killing it over here. We should also be joined by Galveston College STEM scholars on our Zoom. I'll also be, it's recording. It's recording. So I'll put it on YouTube. That way, if y'all wanted to share it anywhere or anything. So I wanted to first talk a little bit about how this came to be. So sometimes there's this thought that you're either an honors college student or you're an engineering student, right? And so that's not the case. We share you. You're both. You were both. You are both. And so in order to strengthen those relationships, we did the college collaborations. And our alumni are super impressive. All of y'all are. It blows me away, particularly engineering, because I have no understanding of the subject whatsoever. And so it's always exciting to be able to bring y'all back and see where y'all are going and see that y'all got married. And so that's always exciting. But one thing we really wanted to do was solidify that relationship with our academic colleges. Because like I said, we share you as students and alumni, and we want to be able to show you off and support you. And we're always better supporting students as a team rather than individually. Okay, and then I just wanted to remind you that we're going to have a small reception out there. There'll be cookies and punch. So the way I like to describe it is this is a facilitated discussion, and out there will be an organic discussion. I will rely on Jamie to keep that going for us out there, okay?
Except for the fact that I've got to run it.
There'll be cookies.
Yeah, probably before you grab and go the way out.
And if there's any questions on Zoom or anything, I will take those. But if y'all will do your presentation, and then we can do questions at the end, and then go from there. So I'll let them introduce themselves as they present. So our first speaker is Jordyn. You may have known her as Jordyn Baxter, but she's now Jordyn Nash. So. Yeah, so I'm sorry. I also wanted to thank Allie. Allie is not only our honors college advisor, she's also my mentee. She's in the master's program right now, and as part of one of her courses, she has taken on a bulk of the work for these collaboration efforts. So I wanted to thank her as well. So now.
Well, this is awesome. I kind of wish they had these when I was a student here, because I just think the idea and the foundation of it is perfect for what students are needing and would gain from. But my name is Jordyn Nash, formerly Jordyn Baxter. I just thought I'd talk a little bit on how I ended up getting to Lockheed Martin after graduating, and provide some tips for students or anyone online, or if this would be shared for eventually. So just some hiring tips, especially from Lockheed, from managers, recruiters, and just some tips that they provided. Haven't had these clear in a while. So a little bit more about me. I graduated with my bachelor's in electrical engineering this past May, with minors in both math and computer science as well. I am also a certified EIT in Texas. I passed my FE exam. This semester, I started working on a master's in systems engineering online with University of Texas at El Paso. Just some previous work I did. I worked with Dr. KV, with the environmental engineers, with research work at Texas AgriLife, and I was a student grader and TA for Dr. Martinez as well. I did a virtual research internship with UT Austin right at the peak of COVID, as we were talking about earlier, with their summer undergraduate research internship. That was actually with their petroleum engineering department. So wide variety of different engineering topics that weren't necessarily related to my degree at the time, but still provided research experience, teamwork, networking, that sort of stuff. And most recently, internship-wise, I was a civilian electronics engineer with the Air Force in the Space ComSec Acquisition Division. And all that led me to Lockheed, where I am now. So what do? I work at Lockheed Martin Aeronautics in Fort Worth as a systems engineer. I work on the F-35 program in mission data and combat software. A lot of big fancy words, but pretty much what I work on is a program called the Common Reprogramming Tool. This allows us to program the mission data that's going to go onto the jets. Mission data can include everything from the electronic warfare, radar, countermeasures, and all the data fusion that goes into the sensors on the jets. I've had to quickly learn agile development, which I don't know if is taught in computer science, but it is widely used, especially with software in industry. So I definitely recommend looking into it. POs, sprints, PIs, all that terminology. It would definitely give you a leg up because that took me a minute to figure out. But system engineer is kind of a broad term. I do everything from functional design and technical design work to now moving into testing for some sections of our project. So it's kind of a multi-purpose role within the team. So it's good to know a little bit of everything. Just continue on because I'm trying to stay within my time frame. So a little bit on the job hunting process. My first internship, I applied to over 78 internships and I was offered one. And that was with UT Austin. My second one was a little bit easier. Applied 45 internships. I was offered 4, but I had to decline 2 for relocation purposes. One was in New Mexico, and then one turned into what was originally a Texas internship, and it turned into a 6-month co-op in Rochester, New York. So that wouldn't have been able to work with my schedule, sadly. So that was how I ended up with the Air Force. And then jobs I applied for, about 31, and I received the one job offer from Lockheed Martin. And it wasn't even the one I applied. It wasn't even one I applied for online. And this was back in March is when I had gotten in contact with Lockheed over the position. So this was early in the job hunting process. So that number would have been a lot higher had I not had this opportunity. But it was actually a job fair that got me hired. It was a hiring event that Lockheed put on in Fort Worth that a few classmates and I went to in mid-March. 2 weeks, week and a half later, I had an offer from them. So completely coincidental, but it ended up working out. So I appreciated that they gave me the opportunity. But I thought I'd mention some things that my managers and some recruiters at Lockheed had given me advice for to share with some students and kind of just what they're looking for and some tips that they had. So your resume. Experiences from university can be pivotal. Your classroom projects, lab work, good showcases of not just your technical work in class, but also just good examples of teamwork. Companies really don't hire you for your knowledge. I mean, it's important and it's good that you have your degree, but they understand that you're not going to be extremely well versed in technical work or what they're specifically working on. So the idea that they're looking for is for you to be able to work together with others, adaptability, and just a willingness to learn new things. So definitely kind of highlight projects that point those kind of qualities out. Research experience is good, especially if it aligns with companies or roles you're looking for. It's not a requirement, but it's definitely a good way to highlight your resume, and professors usually always have research going on and are looking for students to help with that. This can also be a great talking point for your interviews. Your interviews are a way for you to highlight certain points of your resume that you really want to push forth to talk about. Career Service Center helps with resumes. Keeping the format simple. I've known people that had like 5-page resumes and it was immediately put in the trash. 1 to 2 pages max, especially for engineers. I know 1 page can be a little hard, or computer science as well, but 1 to 2 pages is about ideal. But it also varies on the company. So each company you apply for, you should have a different resume format. Just something to keep in mind. So one of the things that my coworker who's a recruiter mentioned was the STAR method in interviews for situation, task, action, and result. So whenever you're asked a question, like, tell me about a time you did this, or how did you respond to something that happened in this a good way to explain those is a story. So explain the situation, the task you were given, any actions you took, and also how it ended. The result is extremely important. Especially if you don't have results yet, you can always bring up predicted results. Like, how do you think it's going to end up? This was a very strong point that my coworker recommended discussing and bringing to this. I also included some example questions and topics. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll let y'all glance at them. There is about 150, 200 questions that recruiters will typically pick 5 or 6 from. And so these 9, it's 2 slides, but there's 9 topic categories that they'll typically choose from. And these will be shared, I'm assuming, as well, so you'll be able to look through them more closely. Try and stay within time. I actually had to shorten this a lot because I had so much I wanted to bring. But there's the last 4. I know I, for one, had the lead change with agility, optimize. So they definitely pull from these 9, even at hiring events and where they interview thousands of people. They definitely stick to these pretty well. And that's about it. I was trying to go a little quickly, but is there any initial questions that I can answer?
So did you have, was there one particular class that you drew from most of all? Or do you look at your whole experience at the university to help you put all this together? And especially on the experiences.
So that kind of depends on the company. With some of the ones I interviewed with, I would, so say I got in with an interview with Amazon, for example. I would try to hit more on the computer science classes I had to take, because that would probably be more of the role that I would be assigned. Whereas with Lockheed or General Dynamics, which would mean more engineering and technical work, I would apply more to circuits, to capstone, more of the technical classes that align with my degree. And so it really just depends.
So you feel like your experiences here really did give you all those things that you listed?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, at least with the way the electrical program is, it's broad enough that it covers a little bit of mechanical with thermo and a few other classes. It covers computer science, it covers mathematics, and it covers electrical as well. So I can kind of pick and choose what I need or want to highlight from my education, while not deferring too much from the company or what they're looking for. What's up?
How would you suggest balancing research projects with, an honor student schedule?
That is an excellent question, and really, it just depends on the project and working with the professor, whoever you're doing the research for. I know some students would only be able to work on it like a day a week, like for 3 hours or whatever, because they were just so busy. I know when I worked on research with Dr. KV over at the AgriLife Center, I was over there maybe only 2 days a week. Like, I was extremely part-time. But it really just depends on what they're needing, how much effort they're needing, and what you have to offer, and most professors will work with you on that too. So it really just depends. Yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, very much so.
Cool. Anybody else? Yes.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
So, the Wall Street Journal put out a survey to evaluate how much value our alumni have expressed that they have got from the time at Tarleton. Also students, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So the question was about value. So they asked 3 questions. I remember 2. So one of the question is if you would recommend this to friends and family to come to Tarleton and do what you did. And the second question is, if you have to do it all over again, would you come back? So can you expand us a little bit about your thoughts?
Yes and yes. Absolutely, I would come back. The program is great and it's only continuing to grow. The facilities and campus are great. I don't feel like I'm just a number at Tarleton, and despite its growth, that sentiment never changed throughout my time here. And big universities don't always give you a leg up. I know that some of my coworkers are almost hesitant about some people with degrees from large universities because sometimes that the larger university degrees sometimes will give them not necessarily an ego, but it gives recruiters are they kind of prideful? Like, do they really work with other people? And that's definitely not something that you typically see from smaller universities like Tarleton. And that's just all the more reason that the bigger the university doesn't necessarily matter. I would definitely recommend people to come. If I had to come back here again, I would definitely not change a thing.
Is there anything that we need to change that you would like us to see doing the next few years? And by the way, is that the same question I want to ask you?
They got prep time. That's a loaded question. I don't know.
And you don't answer to me now, you can think about it.
I might have to get back to you on that. I think just maintaining the diversity in the technical aspects and the programming languages and what the students are introduced to. I know that the latter half, like junior, senior year, a lot of my classes mainly only use MATLAB, for example. Whereas we do use MATLAB on my project, but we also use SQL, we use HTML, we use a few other different languages that it would have been nice to at least be introduced to before going into it, even from a electrical standpoint. But just some stuff to just keeping the diversity in mind, because that only gives students more aspects, more languages, more technicality to dip their feet in,
More
to be able to touch
versatility.
on. More versatility is the exact wording I'm looking for. Thank you.
You participated in the engineering student project showcase.
I did. We participated with our capstone. I believe that was last May.
Yes.
We had the control systems projects with the little with the motors and the MATLAB set up on the table. So that was my project.
So they did an inverted pendulum,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
so the units we bought from company is super expensive, like $5,000 per unit.
Mhm.
But what they did is they redesigned the unit,
Mhm.
and my understanding is much cheaper, like over $1,000. And that the plan is we're gonna use their design and to use the unit in the class. That save a lot of money.
That's awesome. And it was pretty much the lab setup for an entire semester of class. We had like 4 different stations that they would do over a span of like 8 to 10 weeks.
So for the next one that is coming up in
Okay.
April,
Mhm.
so would you all be interested in coming and looking and maybe judging some of the work of other team? Because
Absolutely.
you're talking about, you mentioned something very important that said about how companies hire our students and not for the knowledge, but for the ability to work in teams. And that's what you will see that day. Because you will see students presenting the work that they did in teams. So very much what I'm leaning into is maybe your organizations will come to hire and find talent that day.
I'll connect them all with you by email.
Yes,
after
yeah.
this,
Absolutely.
and swoosh it together.
So I'll give you all the information.
Yeah, no, that would be fantastic. I'd love to come back. Cool.
All right, I have one more question.
Go ahead.
Okay, and it will be for everybody. Tell me remember what my question was, okay? Okay, but what was your favorite class outside of your major and those 2 concentrations? Here.
So more like general education. Ooh,
Or elective.
or elective. I'd say for me, actually, I had taken honors art of film. And I think that was an interesting course, and it makes you think a lot more just about film and like the visual aspects and all the planning and production that goes into it. And it's not stuff you would think about. So it's just thought-provoking. Even though it wasn't necessarily engineering related, it's still critical thinking thinking more than just, oh, here's a movie. Did you have it with Dr. Anderson or Dr. Howard? I believe it was Dr. Anderson.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit, but I think it was Dr. Anderson.
Cool. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. Use this one, right?
Yeah. And I will say, that was probably maybe only half of the slides I'd originally put together, but I sent Ms. Hobson the full set. So if y'all want to distribute that out to students, it's just got more interview resume tips. Just stuff like that.
You guys stand. I don't want to be like in your way.
Whatever you want, whatever you're
Okay,
comfortable
I'm just
with.
gonna sit if that's fine. So, I wanted to keep like with Tarleton, so I found these slides on the website, so I used it to my advantage, so thank y'all. I better work on it, but, I call it college experience.
I think you have it upside
Oh. There we go. My bad. First, I'm using one of these. Oh, okay, so my presentation overview, we're gonna do a little bit of introduction, things I wish I'd known in college, a little bit about post-graduation, future goals, advice, and just Q&A. So a little bit about me. My hometown's Hico, Texas. So I live down the road, 30 minutes away. I graduated Hico High School in 2016, and then I came here. I got my undergrad in civil engineering, and I graduated in 2020. And I did have to climb up that wall in a dress. It was very complicated, but it was worth it. And then I pursued a master's degree in structural engineering, and I graduated last December, 2022. And then now I currently work in JQ, and it does say JQ now IMEG because we just merged. So I've been there a year, so it's very exciting. And these are my biggest accomplishments in my life right now. I am a first generation college graduate, so it just means a lot to my family. And just as an older sibling, I have 2 younger brothers, so just being able to help them guide them through the process, it was very fun. So yeah, there we go. Things you don't know. And you probably do know this, maybe you don't. Just things about like confusion, extracurricular activities, maybe failing. Sometimes you can feel like you're just going downhill. Career fairs, internships, having fun, and then graduate school. Confusion. So this is mostly, I would say, maybe like your freshman, sophomore year. Sometimes I didn't know I was going to do engineering. I was actually wanting to do architecture. And then I didn't go where I was gonna go because I didn't want to move away from home. So I came to Tarleton, and then all I knew was like, I'm good at math. What do I do? Engineering, right? That's how I ended up in my major. So sometimes it's okay to not know, or maybe you're like, I want to be a lawyer, and you're like, you take a history class, you take a government class, and you're like, oh, I don't like this. You know, it's okay. You know, like you don't have to know it right away. Sometimes loneliness. Like I said, I didn't move away because I wasn't ready to go. You know, leave the nest. That's okay, you know. Homesickness, maybe you do end up moving away 2 hours from your hometown, or overwhelmed, you know, maybe just, I mean, going from high school to college is a big difference, a lot of coursework, so sometimes that can be overwhelming, but it's okay. It's natural to feel confused. Organizations though, we have community services, intramural sports, fraternities, sororities, clubs. I know I was part of the ASCE. I was in the engineering club back then. It's pretty small, but it was a great time. You know, you get to network, you get to meet classmates, especially if you don't know anyone. It's a great way to communicate. Failure and resources. So maybe you fail a class. Maybe you were used to being, you know, a top A student in high school, and then you come here to college, you know, grad college, and it's like, oh man, you know, professors slowly, you know, I remember taking a government class here. I'm in my first C ever. I cried. I went home and I cried to my mom. I was like, I made a C. Like, what am I gonna do? It's okay. You know, you're gonna survive. Maybe it doesn't happen to you, good, but if it does, it's okay.
Already did.
All right, you're not the first and you won't be the last. This happens to everyone, exactly. Sometimes low self-esteem, you know, maybe you hit depression. When I moved away to grad school, that was the first time I was leaving the nest. It was during COVID. So moving to a bigger campus, not knowing anyone and trying to meet people to work with, it was a lot for me. So I literally made a 40 on my first homework, and I was like, I'm not gonna make it. So, you know, depression did hit a little bit, but it's okay, you know. you can get over it. Fear, anxiety, these are all normal feelings that students, it happens to you. Sometimes you don't speak out, and that's where your resources come in. You know, there's counseling, talk to your professors. They do care about you, you know. Tutoring, make friends, talking to someone about it. Don't be afraid to reach out, because maybe you think you're the only one in that situation. You're not. There are plenty of people who are feeling the same thing. So just don't be afraid to speak out. Career fairs, internships. For the career fairs, this is a very important one. Save the date on your calendar. Do your research. You know, usually I believe they'll send you a list of the companies that will be there. You know, you need to have a plan, because my mistake, I went into one, I had no idea. I was there standing in the middle of the hallway looking up, researching. You know, you need to know what you're looking for. You know, if you're civil, go talk to the civil firms. You know, don't waste your time going talking to the mechanical. You know, there's no chance there, you know. So do your research. Dress code. You have to look casual, professionally. People do look at that. You know, 2 weeks ago, I got to go to my first career fair as a recruiter. So I got to see what people look for, and it does make a difference sometimes, you know, what you're wearing, or if you did your research, you know, like, we're impressed and keep coming back. If you're a freshman, it's okay. Maybe you don't get a job, maybe you don't get an internship, but people do remember, because my recruiter, she remembers freshmen that were now seniors, and now they have, you know, an advantage, because they kept coming back every year. That looks good on your resume. And your resume, like, she talked about it, you know, make sure you're very detailed, keep it short, 1 page. You know, you're trying to brag about yourself. So there are the good things, any internships, your college classes that pertain to that job. And then I know they do like mock trials here, I'm pretty sure. So set one up, go practice, you know, it's gonna help you with your communication skills. Ask questions, you know, the recruiter's gonna ask you, but the same way they're expecting you to ask them, what can you as a company offer to me? You know, like, what am I gonna gain for my benefit? You know, am I gonna have a mentor? Am I not? How does the process work? Follow up with them, send them an email, just be like, hey, it was great talking to you. And then speak up, you know, don't be afraid to ask questions, you know. They like that. Be confident. Graduate school. So this was a big one for me. I had no idea when I was a senior here how that worked, how the process worked. So application deadline, know when to apply. You know, keep that in mind. Admission criteria, there are prerequisite courses that I had one that it was an offer here when I was in school, so I had to take that when I got to grad school. So make sure you're aware. Standardized testing, I had to take the GRE. So if you're going to like law school, you'll need the LSAT. So just make sure you know what you're looking for. Cost of attendance, the transcript, letters of recommendations, GPA requirement, and your personal statement. This is a big one. I like to tell people is you're kind of like selling yourself out, but you're telling them why are you why do you belong to that school? Why if we accept you, why are you gonna make a difference? How are you gonna help us become better? So that's a very important part of that application. So after I graduated, I worked for JQ, we're a structural firm. I've been there 1 year. I work for both buildings and infrastructure. A little bit about us, our JQ company, we do a lot of work for Tarleton. So we helped with the Mayfield engineering. We designed all the structural for that. We've helped with the Memorial Stadium. And this is the biggest project right now that we're gonna be working on, one of the biggest ones, the new Tarleton State Health Professions building. So we're actually pretty exciting. My coworker, he's been working on it this week. So it's just really cool to see that something that we're working on is actually gonna get built here. So if you see us, right over there, yeah. So that's pretty cool to see that your work is actually gonna come alive and it's for your school. Like, that's amazing. Pretty cool. So that's the Zachary building. We made that one. So I actually got to go to school there. So that's pretty cool. This is more of like a wastewater treatment plant. So I work with both. They're very different codes. So it's cool learning how each little section has its own building codes. Future goals for me, career-wise, I am planning on taking my PE. It's an 8-hour test. You need 4 years of experience. I wanna become a project engineer, eventually become a mentor to future engineers, students in general. I really like business side, a lot of business, and that's the older you, how do I say this? I guess the more you work in engineering, the higher up, when you move up, it's more about management and less engineering. So I do feel like I need a business background, so maybe I'll begin my MBA. I thought about some personal goals. I'm training for a half marathon right now, you know, like I'm an active person, you know, I have to sit in the desk, you know, 8 hours a day. So on my free time, I like to go boxing, running, whatever, just staying active. Traveling abroad, you know, that's one of my biggest dreams to be able, I've never left the state. So now that I'm actually working, you know, I want to go to South America, I want to go to Europe. I'm ready to go travel the world. Work-life balance, you know, for a long time, engineers, they would work from 6 a.m. till 7 p.m., even longer. And that's still very common. But, you know, they're pushing for a big work-life balance, which they're doing better. That's why I like my job right now. It's the company, the culture. They're very flexible. You know, I'm here with y'all. Maybe before then, I wouldn't be able to take off half a day. And starting my own business. I've always wanted my own business. Don't know what yet, but it's been on mine since I was a little girl. So we're going to stick with it. And eventually I'll have my own business. And then fun. So all of these pictures, this is actually in the Tarleton, one of the Tarleton buildings in Fort Worth. That was the rebar when they were going to place the concrete.
Wow.
So you get to walk on that, and as you're wobbly, you're like bouncing, while the construction workers are like running through it, and you're over here trying not to fall. So that was pretty cool. This top one, I was a Tarleton student, so we got to go, I can't remember where it was, but Dr. Raj, he's right there. And then my brothers, I got to be with them one semester at A&M, so that was really cool for me to be able to spend one semester of college with my brothers. And then just life, you know, this year, this picture's here at Tarleton, when I graduated, and just friends, and the president, he's up there, that's pretty cool. So you just make sure you have fun. It's good to study, be responsible, but don't forget, you know, you only live once, so enjoy it while you're here. And that's it. That's my info. So if you ever need advice, if you have questions, engineering, non-engineer related, you can find me here. That's it.
Questions for Diane? Well, you said you're from HICO.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were good at math. Did you feel like you had a really good high school math teacher?
Yes, yes, Mr. Surley, he's a smart man, really good.
Even though it's HICO.
Even though it's HICO, yes, no, for real.
Yes.
Oh, you are? Oh.
She's from Iredale.
Were we live on that?
Ariana and I go way back.
Yeah, we go way back.
Okay, but we didn't collectively say no to that.
No, you know, I do say, you know, go in engineering field when you go to college. I did meet other students, they came from better schools, and I do feel like they had a lot of resources that smaller schools don't. But I will say that our math teacher, he's a brilliant man. He was really smart, and math always came easy to me though. So that's why I just liked it. But yes, we do have, he's retiring this year, sadly, but he was really smart man.
I have 2 questions.
Two questions. Yeah, the first one was, would I come back? Yes, I would. I feel like I got to taste a little bit of both of like the big schools and the smaller Tarleton. Like in lunch, I was talking about, I feel like your professors, you have the ability to come and talk face to face. The door's always open. And bigger schools, I did have one professor, he really didn't care about you. So it was like, we're here, you know, we're getting paid either way. And here I did feel it was more of, we're gonna help you if we can, and if you're trying, you know, the student has to speak up and come, you know, if the professor can't help if the student doesn't reach out. So it goes both ways, I feel like. But yes, I would come back and I would recommend it to other people. I think it's a solid foundation, especially the engineering, you know, it's growing every day. I'm glad I get to come back and speak to you, to future generations of engineers. So yeah, it's cool.
We had 2 questions on Zoom. So first one I'll start with is, do you use math every day at work?
Do I use math? Yes, sometimes it could just be adding, I don't know, random fractions, but yes, I do always use math in my job.
Perfect. The other, what was the most challenging class you took when getting your civil engineering degree?
Okay, surprisingly, here we, in our civil, coursework, we do environmental classes also. So those hydrology and water resources for KB were, I mean, they were fun, but man, you had to study for his test. Like you knew, like Dr. KB, it was like, oh, watch out. So maybe that's why I didn't go into the water department, you know. I took civil.
Excellent. Those are the two we had on Zoom.
And you mentioned, work-life balance, and that you're training for a half marathon and all that great stuff. Did you do any, I would say training for a half marathon is pretty strenuous exercise. Did you participate in that as an undergrad in anything?
So yeah, so in my undergrad years, I didn't, that's one of the things, at least here in Tarleton, I wasn't very involved. And that's one of the things that I do regret. That's why I said like join clubs, especially as a commuter, since I would drive back and forth. To me, I was like, there's no point in me joining. So that's the one thing that I would change. I would tell people, get involved, talk to people, because that is the one way you can reach out. And in grad school, I did. I started joining a lot more clubs. I started going out to boxing classes, whatever, joining clubs. But I do wish that as an undergrad, I would have done more here. Because I wish there were a lot of opportunities I did not take advantage of.
So, and with that strenuous exercise, sorry, it was kind of a
No.
qualification. Would you say that with the work that you're doing and of course with your exercise that it helps you on a day-to-day basis, maybe with mind clarity, whereas you didn't participate that in undergrad and maybe a lot of stress? I'm assuming you still have
Yeah.
quite a bit of
Oh,
that
yeah.
stress. So would you, I don't know if you've ever reflected, but would you say, even for some students who maybe they don't do a half marathon, but they go do something that could be
Yes.
very helpful in managing that stress, because I think a lot of people have a hard time.
Oh, yeah.
Learning how to do that.
I agree with you on that, Allie. Exercise, I feel like not just for being healthy, especially, but it just, for me, I have long work days and sometimes, I'm there sitting 7 hours and if I can't get something, I get, irritated because you can't get it done. So that's my way. Every time I go home, I go run, I go do a workout because it releases stress. And I think every student should take the time to go for a walk. I'm not saying go run 5 miles, go do like a 30-minute workout, just go for a walk. Anything that can help you just relax your mind. Because sometimes the more you're looking at a screen and if you can't get it, if you just keep staring at it, it's not going to fix itself. You're already irritated, your mind's already messed up there. You need to just relax, go take a breather, and then, come back. Awesome. Yes, sir.
What can we do better?
So I think everything's great. I would recommend maybe, like, I think you brought this up, like, we use certain softwares in grad school that I didn't know we would have needed, or even in like a workplace like Revit, RAM. So this is more, I'm directly talking about like my department. That would be like the biggest thing I would say. Just having be more involved with using programs and softwares. Because like you said, you graduate with a lot of knowledge. But honestly, the company's gonna train you the way they want to train you. Because each company, depending where you go, they have their own ways, their own methods of doing certain things. But just aware of like all the softwares the companies are using. Like in our department, we use RISA, we use RAM, that's to design buildings. So learning the basics at least, how do you, even here, we could take like, I guess, like a plan for one of these buildings, have the students, just model it. And even with that, it's already experience they could put on their resume, maybe like, well, I haven't worked yet, or maybe I don't have an internship, but I do have experience with this software and that looks really good. But everything else, I think we can have a solid foundation.
So if you have contacts with those providers of those software, let us know, because sometimes what they do is offer free licenses
Okay.
for our students. So we have now we got a donation from Altair, and that, I don't know if you know that the software has a electrical antennas, and it has
Structure, thermal. It has pretty much all inclusive software package. If you are in engineering field, you can find your module So we got donation for that one.
Exactly. Yeah, well, they say that it was all free and then they charged. But what's okay, I mean, $2,000, but it's like, what, $1.9 million, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So all the licenses that they gave us. So if you know someone, let us know, because that's a way that you can really help us. Because they want to indoctrinate students with their software, and they are willing to give it for us for free. And it's a win-win for everybody.
Yes, sir, I will if I find out.
So point was taken.
This question goes to you three, all of you. Have you guys had any issues being a woman in STEM? Because most of my advice comes from at least someone who's been in the field for at least 10 years, if not more. And I'm curious how it's looking more currently.
You wanna go down the line?
Down the line?
Oh, you want me to go first?
Why not?
Personally, no, I really haven't felt like I was, if anything, I think some more old-fashioned people might be more hesitant to be honest with you, and I think that can be frustrating because you might feel like you're not getting clear feedback, that maybe they would feel more comfortable with giving a man because they think they won't get offended, and there's this there's sometimes this hesitance, I think. However, as far as just being a peer, I work directly with people my age and then with people who've been there for 40 years. I've never felt like I was treated differently as a woman. I felt like I was treated based on the merits of my experience and my abilities. So personally, not really.
Yeah, so right now I work in a very small office. There's maybe like 15 people max. There are 2 other females in the office with me. One of them, well, actually both of them, they're never there. They get to work from home. So I guess they're used to that. So it's just me and like 8 other guys. Honestly, I feel like they give me, I don't say special treatment, but it's like if we're gonna go out to go eat, they let me pick, you know? So I feel like I get privileged, you know, it's good. But like she said, you know, they treat us the same way, you know, it goes honestly down to your knowledge on, obviously, if you say you have a year of experience compared to somebody that has 3 years, you know, they're gonna have more responsibility than me, and that's understandable. I know where I stand because I know what I know, and that's honestly all you can do. But no, everywhere I've gone, they've treated me with respect, and I think honestly nowadays I feel like it's very rare to encounter that, at least in a professional environment, I would say. So
I don't really know how much more I can add to that. I think they both hit the nail on the head.
These things are a relief to hear because like my mom in particular has told me some of the stories of her experiences in the field, and like one of her employers once told her she'd make more money working in a strip club down the street. And so hearing how much the field has changed, it's very much a relief.
My mother
Yeah.
currently works at Tarleton, but I would assume that is not where she was employed at the time.
No, that's one would hope. That was many years ago. That was, I think that was the course.
We'll point that out just in case they make it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just to kind of piggyback off that, I work on a design team of about 20 or 30, maybe only 3 of us total are females. But there really has been no difference. I've worked with people that have been at the company for 5 months to majority of them are a year or 2 out of college at the company. And then you have some that are in the more leadership roles that are 15, 20 years at the company. But regardless, there really hasn't been a difference. So I think it just depends on the company and the team you're on and kind of the roles that they try to, I guess, value and enforce. But definitely respect for your coworkers is one of the roles, at least at Lockheed, and it sounds like at other companies as well, that is highly valued.
And these things are a relief to hear.
Yeah, and I will add to that. Only great engineering companies would be like that. So anyone that is not doing it is not a great place to work in engineering, and I'm gonna be specific why. Because what do we do as engineers? We identify problems. How do you identify a problem if you are using only your lens. So you need diversity of lenses to really pinpoint a problem. Evaluate the problem from different angles, generate ideas from different angles, and then build it and deploy it and test it from different angles. So diversity, I mean, engineering is one of the professions that diversity is integrated if you want to do good engineering. Otherwise, I mean, it would be a bad engineering company and you don't want to go there.
Great, I think that is all the time I have. So-
She is like.
It's 10 minutes until I'm supposed to be in the tutoring center.
She's a tutor.
Oh,
Alright,
we don't wanna
and
keep
my
you.
question, what was your favorite class outside of?
It's hard to think. I think honestly, philosophy was just a very interesting class because it's so opposite of engineering where, engineering, you have an answer, you get a solid answer like math, 3 + 4, it's 7, there's no dispute, it's 7. Philosophy, it drove me crazy because honestly, it was like you give your opinion and you're right. And I'm like, well, it depends. But no, it's philosophy. Like it's a very different, you have to look at it from a different perspective. So it's just the way it just flips your brain differently.
Was that an honors section?
I believe so, yes.
Is it Hallgard? Or Clifford?
Well, Clifford, it wasn't teaching.
It's probably Hallgard.
I think it was, yeah. But yeah, it was a very interesting class, especially for an engineer student, because it's very different to the way we get, process things.
And save information too. So both of you remember the class, but don't remember the professor. Because that's how we think. So our minds in engineers, if we try to maximize the energy and put the energy to remember things that are important and don't remember things that to us are important. So just remember how the class impacted, but you don't remember the name of the professor.
I'm gonna let Dr. Hallgard.
I'm like that too, so I'm being clear, so I remember the big impact things, but the tiny little things I just don't remember, I rely on, let me go and find out.
Yeah.
Your professor was the tiny little thing in the class.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
So-
getting that clear.
So one of the things I regret the most is my liberal art education. I really, when I was an student, I wasn't really paying much attention to philosophy, language, history. I regret it because nowadays I realize someone told me actually liberal art really can make you. Yeah, because you thinking beyond your profession and have a bigger pictures.
We were just talking about, we were talking about something similar to that. So we have an alum who majored in history, right? And now works in the financial industry. So that crossover, I think, is fascinating. And so that might be a plan in the future to figure out where our alums are who graduated with these degrees if they're not in the field, because that's fascinating. My field is agriculture.
Well, I mean, communication, critical thinking.
Yeah.
Without those soft skills, we engineers go nowhere. Yeah.
I was gonna say, especially, technically engineers, most of them, they're pretty shy, but communicating, it's a big one, that I told everybody, you need to know how to talk to people. It doesn't matter if you're like super smart, but if you can't go and communicate, it's gonna hurt you really bad. You need to learn. And if not, there are classes, there are ways to help with that.
So I should say, in our defense, we are not shy. Is that nobody have asked us yet, what are you working on? At the moment that what are you working on? Be ready, because it's 2 hours explaining.
We just don't do the small car.
All right. We're gonna go a little low tech here. I don't have a fancy presentation, but I will be speaking, I want to speak about my journey, kind of where I came from, where I went after graduation, and kind of my experience. I worked in a couple jobs since graduation, so I have some interesting kind of juxtapositions of like working for a very small company versus working for a very large company. So my name is Kilanie Stilwell, formerly Kilanie Arpin. I'm originally from Stephenville. I graduated from high school here, and I decided to go to Tarleton in 2016. It's where I met my wonderful husband. We were both PHP students, but we actually met because we were going and doing, I think, differential equations homework together. With a mutual friend from one of my freshman projects. So I actually started as an environmental engineering major at Tarleton. Mechanical engineering was not a major until the end of my freshman year. I wanted to go ahead and switch, and my toss-up was between civil and mechanical, and I said I wanted to go mechanical because I don't know, I think it'll be harder, which after learning what I have about civil engineering, I don't know if I agree with that anymore. But I thought, you know, mechanical would be a very versatile degree, so that's why I went with that. I started back when we were in that old hydrology building, and then our senior year, we transitioned to the new building, which is delightful. Unfortunate that I only got to enjoy it for like half a semester, and then we graduated in 2020 when we had COVID going on. So we spent, after spring break, we spent the rest of that semester doing our capstone presentations on Zoom. So that was really fun. But I went ahead and graduated in December or spring of 2020 with presidential honors and a degree in mechanical engineering. I'll be honest, the job market was not good when we graduated, but I ended up starting and working for about a year at a company called TxDOT Pump, and it is located in Waco, Texas. So that company, what we did was we quoted and designed wastewater and stormwater lift stations. So typically when you're trying to transport wastewater, you're gonna want it to go downhill because then you can just use gravity. However, there's some situations where you can't do that. So what we would do is we would dig holes in the ground, put a well in it, put a pump inside there, and we'd use that pump to pump the wastewater wherever it needs to go. So we would work with customers from your average homeowner to contractors who are working on manufacturing plants, hospitals. The place I worked for was started by a civil engineer. His daughter now runs the company, and she's actually a Tarleton alumni as well. That's how I got hooked up with that company and ended up getting that job. It was very interesting. I wore a lot of hats. I learned a lot in that short year. Unfortunately, I did not get to stay there longer due to other circumstances we'll get into later. But I really enjoyed my time there. I got to wear a lot of hats. I got to develop my social skills, which as an engineer, that can be hard sometimes. I don't know, Diana knew me in middle school. We went to the same middle school for about a year. I don't know if you remember, but I was very shy.
Very quiet. I love to read.
Yeah, I love to read. But now I am working at a job where that's all I do is talk to other people. So you can come a long way just by putting yourself out there and being willing to do things that scare you, like that job, that first job that I had. Because what I was doing is I was cold calling people, asking them, hey, we sent you a quote a few months ago. Are you interested in purchasing this? And I got a lot of no's, but I got some yeses. And we built stations anywhere from, I don't know, about yay tall to I saw some that were like, I don't know, 10 feet in diameter and 20, 30 feet deep. And some had one pump, some had 3. It just all depends on how much wastewater they want to transport and how far they want to transport it. That was a very small company. I worked with about 5 other people. And some of the pros and cons, I think, from working at a small company were that the pros, I would say, is that you get to have that experience where you get to do a lot of different things. You get to work on the sales, you get to work on the design, you get to learn how to quote things. You even get to learn a little bit about electrical work, but I do think that's black magic. So I'll be honest, I didn't delve too far into that. But some of the cons I would say is that you're probably not going to have as good of a benefits package if you go to a small company. However, I do think I had a lot of benefits there. I was working with a lot of older individuals who had a lot of experience and knowledge that they could pass down. And I really enjoyed my time there. But moving on, me and Isaac moved to Wichita Falls in, I believe it was fall of 2021. And I applied to a lot of jobs there. job market was slowly coming back up. And I ended up getting an interview for a quality engineer position at Howmet Aerospace. So Howmet is a company that's worldwide. We have plants in, oh gosh, just across the US. There's plants in Indiana, Connecticut, Michigan. We have plants in Mexico, Japan, England, all over the world. And essentially what we do is investment casting. So that's gonna be, you're taking little wax pellets and metal ingots, you're turning that into a jet engine part. At the plant that I work at, we specialized in low pressure turbine blades and vanes. So blades are spinning parts, vanes are stationary. And I've been there for about 1.5 years now. I've really enjoyed my time there. I currently work with 3 different customers. I work with GE, Avio, which is a company that works with GE based in Italy, and IHI, which is based in Japan and also works with GE. Basically, my day-to-day responsibilities are to keep us out of trouble. So if we have any changes to the process, that goes through me. I have to sign that. Often, well, not often, hopefully not often, but occasionally we'll have something where maybe we ship something we shouldn't have. That's my job, to go to the customer and say, this is what kind of situation we have. This is the bounding. This is how long it's been happening. These are the measures that we put short-term in effect in order to stem the bleeding, in order to help the situation. This is what we think we want to do going forward. And then we'll help develop a root cause corrective action plan with that team, and going forward, try to fix the issue and keep that from happening again. I work with a diverse team of product process engineers. They'll work on the tooling and the actual investment casting process, as well as manufacturing engineers who work more on the lean manufacturing side. And we also work with design engineers from GE. And sometimes they'll say, here's a part, we need you to make the trailing edges this thin. And we'll say, we can't do that. So we have to work with them on a day-to-day basis. And that is one of the most rewarding parts of my job. And I'm hoping that later I may be able to go visit some of their sites. I had a coworker who went to Poland last year and was able to visit an Avio site in Poland. I also have a coworker who works with MHI, which is a Japanese company, and she was able to go to Japan recently. So I'm very excited at the opportunities that this job has given me. As far as pros and cons of working in a larger industry, it's very go, go, go. You need to be working on something at all times. There's always something to do. I enjoy that. I enjoy always having a task. I enjoy checking things off a list. So that's really good for me personally, but if that isn't your mentality, you might not want to go into manufacturing. As far as cons, you know, sorry, that was a con, I apologize. As far as pros, I would say you're gonna have a way better benefits package as opposed to a smaller company, because they have more resources, they're able to offer you more. And you also will have more opportunities for upward mobility at a larger company. I highly recommend finding a company that tends to hire people from within. My company does that a lot. I've seen a lot of engineers that I've worked with go on and become process owners or move on into more corporate roles within the company, which I think speaks really well for the fact that they're willing to see what foster their internal talent. As far as my takeaways from my job hunting experience and what I think helped me the most, I think having organizational and communication skills are really what sets you apart as an engineering student from the rest, because we all take the same classes, we all pass the same classes, we have the same degree. However, when you're put in an interview room, you have to sell yourself, and that can be really hard, especially if you know you're going up against people who might have more qualifications than you. If you can make that connection with the person that you're speaking with, and if you can get them to believe that you're a trustworthy, outgoing person, that you're reliable, you're a good worker, that is what can really set you apart and help you to get that job, as opposed to someone who might have more qualifications. Something that I would recommend when you're new in a job, always be asking questions. Always, don't be afraid to seem dumb, because you are dumb when you first start. Don't be afraid to ask the dumb questions. Don't be afraid to say, well, why do we do this way? Most of the time, they're gonna give you a good answer, but sometimes the answer is we've always done it this way, and then you're able to find out, you maybe work with leadership and find a better way to do things. And I think that's about all I have. Just don't be afraid to think outside the box. Does anyone have any questions?
The rumor at the time was you were tutoring Isaac. In different-
No, it was more the other way around, actually.
You made me back in thermo.
Yeah, I helped him in thermo.
So do you do a lot of statistical analysis of failures?
You know, we do a lot of typically when we are requesting, what happens is we get a blueprint with the I guess that's our word, tolerances on it. And we make the part for the first run, and we do measurements for every characteristic on the blueprint. And we tend to project those out to 4 sigma and request extended limits up to that much, so that we can say most of these features won't be measured in production. We're saying that we want to make this tool, get it qualified, and then not have to measure most of these features unless you visually can see that something is out. However, we do usually have an approved gauge plan, which typically features like your wall thickness, your trailing edge openings, and some other things are going to be critical that you'll want to check those on every part. Those ones we can often get approved up to 3 sigma. Outside the actuals, and that is that's the standard process that I go through, and that's my job to do the final review and submit all those to the customer. And then often we get back, well, we can't do that, and we have to work with them what they can take.
How do you look inside if you have tubes or inner spaces?
Mhm.
Do you have X-ray? What do you use?
So we have a couple different methods. We have a process called core removal, where we put the parts in acid, and that takes out the ceramic core. We use a borescope, which is a little light and camera on the end of like this bendable tube, and we'll stick it inside there and see if you can see anything on the display. But we also do have a process called FPI, but that's really not for internals. That's where we put fluorescent penetrant onto parts. We'll wash them clean, and then we'll inspect them with flat light. But we do X-ray as well. And I think we also have N-ray, but that's not a typical process. That's something we would have to send outside the plant.
So there are 2 questions.
Okay.
Value, would you do it again? Would you recommend family and friends?
I would do it again if I was doing this degree again, for sure. I'm not at a point in my life where I want to go back and get like a master's. I prefer being out and in the industry doing the job. I've had enough of school just for now. We'll see. We'll give it a few years and we'll see. But I absolutely would recommend it. I have 3 younger siblings, and I try to recommend Tarleton to them. My sister probably isn't going to go to college, but trying to convince my brothers, and I think they'll definitely look you up. One of my brothers says he wants to go into computer science, so we'll see.
You need to send their names to me so I can start reaching out.
Okay.
What can we do better?
So I'm not sure how feasible this is, but it's an idea. When I was a student, I remember we had resources as far as tutoring and things like that for your lower level classes. So like your intro to engineering, or if you were going over to the science building for like physics, you'd have tutors. I know once you started getting honestly past like your intro to engineering, it was hard to find resources to help with that unless you went directly to the professor, but I know y'all have lives. Y'all aren't always available. So maybe if there were to be some sort of tutoring program or mentorship program for the upper levels, I think that would be helpful. As far as things I think Tarleton does well, I spoke with you about this earlier. I really appreciate all the time that was devoted to group work and giving presentations, because that's something I do every day in my job. And I think those have really served me well out in the field.
Kilanie, I'm sure you'll be happy to hear that we have a tutoring, we call Student Success Center. And it's really, we have a tutor free to tutor our students.
Yeah, I actually worked there for a semester.
Okay.
When
now it's
I worked there, we didn't have engineering as a subject.
And this is really located in the college. It's the college offering tutoring.
It's
Yeah.
separate from the tutoring and learning
Yeah.
center?
It's a different.
Oh.
Yeah,
tutoring.
it's separate.
It's within the college, yes.
It's right in the middle of the college. We have a room dedicated, and didn't need a dedicated room to tutoring.
Yeah, they
Oh,
just.
it's awesome. This is
pretty
what we
much,
got.
upperclassmen.
And y'all are
You
doing
get
some
hired
peer
as a
mentoring
student,
with that too,
we'll
aren't you?
post the hours and we'll be there
Well, that's
for certain
wonderful.
classes
Yes.
or like
So
whatever
when you
they-
said that they should do that, I was like, I think they already are.
I wish we had that back then.
So this just confirms they're on the right path.
That's right.
Great.
So how do we get your company, to come to to hire students and to look at what they have been working in the ESPS, Engineering Student Project Showcase?
I mean, I would say reach out to our HR department or our engineering manager. I can give you their names. We actually do co-ops every year. I think all the different plants do. For Wichita Falls, we have co-op positions every year, but there are some that will only get hired for a summer. But a lot of students go to Midwestern State University, which is located in Wichita Falls, and they'll do that while they're going to school. We have some that we work with. Now, as for after graduation opportunities, we do something called the engineering training program that we have. I also mentioned that earlier, where they'll hire recent engineering graduates, and you'll get to spend 6 months each in 3 different locations across the US. And typically they'll have projects they'll work on during their time and do presentations. And almost certainly afterward, if you did well and impressed people, you'll get job offers. So I would highly recommend that. There might even be some positions open if there are students interested in that.
My question, what was your favorite class outside of your major? And it cannot be that class with the differential education. Yeah, I had to look at what
That wouldn't be a favorite class. We had an interesting teacher, but it would not be my favorite.
Do you remember that teacher's name?
He came to class with a black eye one time.
Oh.
It sounds like Wyatt.
Wyatt.
Yeah, it was Wyatt.
Love Dr. Wyatt.
He is an interesting person.
Anyway, for me, I would say there's a class, it wasn't the film class she mentioned. There was a class I took my senior year because I wanted something to do that wasn't math. And it was comp class. It was like a sophomore level comp class that was it was relating film to writing. And so I just wrote a bunch of essays. I like writing. I've always enjoyed it. So it was kind of like I took a writing class from my blow off class. Yeah.
So what's the name of the professor?
Oh,
That
yes, no.
That's how you are. Yes.
Yeah.
We're fulfilling.
So remember Dr. Wyatt's name. He was memorable.
He was something else.
Any other questions?
That was good. All right.
I'll have some at the end that are for everyone.
Oh.
I'll be going even lower tech. All right, so my name is Isaac Stilwell, and I'm just gonna jump right into this. Graduated high school around 2016 from a little town called Henrietta, kind of goes straight north of here for about 2 hours and you'll hit it. Lived here in the honors dorm building, was in the PHP program with my lovely wife, not at the time. Started off in the engineering physics program, which quickly turned into the mechanical engineering program. And yeah, went through school, got a TxDOT internship in 2018 at the Wichita Falls area office. Basically worked in the construction industry for that, so inspected materials, quality analysis, quality assurance, so on and so forth. Yeah, went through college here, graduated in 2020, did my FE exam senior year. So graduated and immediately got my EIT certificate. And then went straight into the workforce. Went and worked for TxDOT in Waco after I graduated in their design department. So basically what I did was made plan sets, so more or less just the blueprint of how you're gonna build the road. So where you're gonna build it, how you're gonna build it, where you're gonna build it out of, so on and so forth. So also built to make sure it's all conformed to all the environmental statutes of the area, coordinating with locals, coordinating with the people who are actually gonna have to maintain it, coordinating with people who are giving us the money to do it, so on and so forth. Did that for a year, and as part of the TxDOT rotation program, went to the construction lab, which is more on the material side of things and pavement design. So quality assurance, quality control, pavement design, and some forensics on that end. After being there for a little bit, we had the opportunity to move back closer to home. Took it, went back into the design department, and this time Wichita Falls. Same thing I did earlier, but a bit more broad this time. Instead of just doing roadway work, I got to do some bridge work, safety projects, go out and do a lot more learning to it. You got to take quite a bit of classes from either FHWA or NHI. Then after that, I was there for about 1.5 years, and now I'm in my current position where I'm back in the construction lab where I'm really heavily into pavement engineering. So I do all of our in-house district pavement design, starting from siting and forensic investigation, site investigations, then designing the pavement, doing cost analysis, all the way to pavement design report. Here's what we're going to go do. I do, when something is screwed up in the field materials wise, I go out and I check it and do some quick forensics analysis, see if I can figure out what went wrong and how to fix it. Or if it's beyond my capacity, I can typically find someone who will know how to fix it. And I also still work in quality assurance and quality control. Yeah, that's basically where I'm at. I've passed my PE exam and I apply for my license next month. Just gotta finish typing up my SCRs and send them off, and hopefully it'll be good to rock and roll.
That's great.
So I was thinking about what to say after all that, and the thought process I went through was, if I had a time machine and I could go back and talk to college Isaac, what would I tell him? And what worked for me, what didn't work for me, what have I seen work or not work for others, so on and so forth. And I would say the biggest thing that us engineers struggle with is public speaking. I have seen people get up there and bomb just this. And if I could recommend anything to any engineering student or really STEM student, is do something to help your public speaking. It doesn't even have to be public speaking in your class. For instance, I have never done any public speaking for any extracurricular thing ever, but I was in band for a long time. And that's getting in front of a crowd, having to perform a task correctly in real time, no do-overs. Something in that realm I would recommend to anyone who's in this field, because every engineer, we've seen a huge variety of engineers here today, and we all do different things, but what we all got to do is stand up in front of people and talk. And being good at that will definitely help you in your career and just make it less miserable. Secondly, I would say try to get an internship. Internships are really good, one, for employment prospects. Even if it's not in a field that you're particularly interested in going to. I'm a mechanical engineer. I did not graduate and think I'm going to go into civil engineering and get my civil PE license, but it ended up working out for me. And even if I didn't, it tells a future employer that you're able to show up and perform a task well and actually do some real world applications. And it helps you personally, and it shows you, here's what the industry looks like in a capacity. Here's what a 9 to 5 feels like. Here's how a design process works, so on and so forth. I'd recommend applying for as many as you can, trying to get one. Typically, they open.
Yeah,
That's what happens.
Typically, they'll start opening up around, I'd say, April, all the way to the beginning of summer. And I don't just, if you're interested in TxDOT starts opening up our internships in about a month or two, and we open up pretty much all over the state. And lastly, and the thing I did through college, and I still do to this day, I am the dumb question guy. I be willing to ask stupid questions. Now, that's different than going to your boss and badgering them every 20 minutes with a question that you spent no time looking into. But if you can't figure out an answer to something, ask the question. And you're gonna ask some dumb questions. That's just the nature of it. You're gonna get occasional eye rolls, but you're also gonna hit questions where someone goes, I don't know. And then you go up the chain, and it helps you learn and become more competent more quickly. People are willing to accept you not knowing what you're doing when you're first starting off. That's expected. They're not willing to accept you not knowing what you're doing 5 years down the line. So between when you start and 5 years down the line, figure it out. And to me, the best way to do that is ask stupid questions.
As many as possible.
Yes. But yeah, that's really about all I had.
Awesome.
And Daddy, you wanna ask your question?
Okay, so. Would you do it again? Would you recommend it to family and friends?
Do it again as in come back to Tarleton right now or get in my time machine and go
That
back
machine,
there?
yeah.
Yes, definitely. It clearly worked out in more ways. Yeah, I definitely come back to
He
Tarleton.
was saying at lunch that his parents met here at Tarleton. Her parents met here at Tarleton,
Oh,
and they met here at Tarleton.
And my maternal grandparents met here.
Oh. And it's our Valentine's Day story.
Second generation PHP.
Oh, it's because of.
That is true.
You only.
In more ways than one.
You exist because we're cool, yeah. Yeah.
But yes, I would come back here. I have fond memories of this. I like the fact that, especially like, I know everyone else here has said this, but I'm gonna say it again. The fact you can just go and talk to professors, that's invaluable. I like the smaller classes that encourages discussion instead of just presentation. It's actually can foster some back and forth, which is much better for me to learn at least. And would I recommend it? Yes, I would, for all the reasons said before.
What can we do better?
I think that, at least when I was here, was done well. I think could be hit on a little harder is, again, public speaking, especially on the organizational side of things. For instance, making an agenda for a meeting. I don't remember doing it in college. That may not mean it didn't happen, but I remember it not being important enough to stress about. And that's something, again, because I could say, learn this program or this specific thing, but it's such a broad range that I don't know what everyone's gonna do, but to me, everyone's gonna have to get up and talk. Everyone's gonna have to do group presentations and learn how to say something complicated and concisely. And as many opportunities to practice that is good and worth taking seriously for the students.
So after listening to all of that, I'm thinking in June, maybe we can have a seminar, an open doors, let's say Wednesday at noon, for any student or from any program from any year to just come in and learn something new with them. And we have alumni coming and talking about how to make an agenda. Just simple as that, and then have an hour of Q&A, and then go and do it in a recurrent basis, all semesters, all years, and so that we are passing some key soft skills.
Yeah.
And
Which we don't emphasize enough.
Yeah, soft skills are so important.
yeah, so.
I'll send y'all a list of the honors alumni and engineering.
So I'm an engineer. I'm an engineer, and I was a professor of engineering management. But I got hired by the Corps of Engineers to come and talk to them and teach them soft skills for project managers. So I do have something that, I mean, I can take a break from the office, which would be good, to go and walk and do something different. And then sit with our students and moderate alumni to come and talk about particular topics. I think one very important one is selling skills. Because that's all what we do since the moment that we wake up. We are selling to our significant others where we need to go, what we need to eat.
Right.
You need to sell ideas, you need to sell paths, you need to, I mean, that's what we do all day long. So now
I'm doing
after-
fine, so.
So now, I mean, we need to get into that direction. We kind of are doing something similar with engineering ambassadors, where we train them for public speaking, and they need to face large groups, and so that's now very mature. Going, and it's the second year. We have an assistant dean working under Dr. Zhu. That's all what she does. And the students are running the outreach events, and we have got good feedback from the students. So, but I think that to your point, yeah, we need to institutionalize this in our curriculum in a way that this is for students to come and join and
And this is music to Janice's ears. Janice is our liberal arts guru, right?
Well, and a degree in speech. So public speaking is huge. And I always say, and so I believe that. In fact, and I had classes in college decades ago, the engineering students, it wasn't necessarily required, but encouraged to have public speaking classes and be ready. And you're right. And I have a very good friend, John Dreyfus, who is, that's the soft skills have really advanced him in his career. And that's, and I love the idea of the MBA on that side, on that business side. It will get you places. It gets you places no matter where you are. And so they are very important, and loving to read and being able to have conversations beyond what you're doing at Park really does make a difference.
So I do have one question on Zoom that's kind of for the collective here. And y'all touched on it a little bit already, but if you could go back and talk to your first semester self, what would you tell yourself about how to approach your courses to better prepare? You're not being.
that's a question even for Dr. Zhu and myself. So what would you say, Dr. Zhu?
I would say, put in time, you're gonna get a result. That's always true.
I would say to me, just find the best group study that you can get, and don't worry, you get it done. So I was so worried that all the time. It's just hard work.
Yeah.
And have a good study group. That, to me, the study group was the
Yes.
difference. I was struggling to find the best study group, and I can remember it was Wednesday from 1 to 6 every single day. Nothing could happen for us to sit down, 4 of us, and go through all exercise, create cheat notes, and get done. And then after 6, then we go on with our lives. But it was clockwork all weeks, all semesters. So
I would say believe in yourself. It's very difficult, particularly for women in STEM. We struggle with imposter syndrome. It just happens. And so believing in yourself and knowing that you have a place and that you have value in that space and being able to just keep moving forward, even though there's those doubts, just keep moving forward. And knowing that you're not the only person who is doubting yourself.
While we're heading, what I would tell myself is to find your attachment point, because even though I'm from Hamilton and Tarleton is here and it's regular for us because we're close, finding a person, you know, a staff member, a faculty member that is your attachment point to the university, beyond it just being the closest university to you and you've known about it since you grew up, but finding your person. And it doesn't even have to be in your field. It doesn't even have to be a faculty member. So that attachment point, I think, would have helped me a lot. If I had realized the importance of that, and that we are here, we want to be your attachment. So, yes.
I think, at least for me, I wish I didn't stress as much about it, honestly. Don't stress, just do your best, and use all the resources. Like, there were times I wish I'd gone to faculty more. There were times where I wish I set up the good study groups a lot sooner, because I didn't really have my good work group until maybe junior year. And I wish I'd had that sooner.
Me too.
I'd say taking advantage of your resources fully, not only academic ones, but there's social resources to find people either in your major, out of your major. Make friends, because the friends that I made in college, I think most of them started out as engineering majors. We're the only two that are still engineering majors, but I'm still friends with them. I saw some of them last week. Those connections that you make really can last. And I'd say a lot of times they last more than maybe high school connections or earlier, because this is when you kind of start your professional life and you have to make more effort to make friends. Also take advantage of anything like mental health services on campus. Those are available. If you're paying for it already, why not?
Yeah.
That's about what I have.
All right. Everything everyone said, 100% agree with. Thing took me far too long to figure out a work schedule. Oftentimes, and I am 100% guilty of this, I use myself as an example, I only planned and metered my study and was proactive only so much as I could pass. Which is not a good, not even pass, but get a B or an A, like that's not a good way to handle it. To figure out whatever system you need to do it, to do your homework, study for tests, go over notes sustainably without doing the thing that I'm sure most of us in this room are guilty of doing one time or another. Ignoring it, lazing around, doing kind of whatever you want, and then, oh crap, that's due tomorrow, and staying up till 3 AM cramming it in. You just don't learn nearly as well that way, and you're gonna stress yourself out, and it's just not as efficient, and frankly, you can't do that forever.
To piggyback off of what you said, something in my job that they stress a lot, which I'll be honest, I'm not good at it yet. I'm still trying to learn, is to set yourself a standard work. That's something that could be helpful both in college and outside of college. Especially when you have a job where there's a lot of, we need everything now. Everything is high priority. You need to set yourself, these are the daily tasks these are the things I'm gonna try to hit every day. They're consistent tasks. And then leave yourself time for when something blows up and you need to get something done now. But if you try to set yourself a routine and a schedule, you're going to end up achieving more in the long run.
So I had a question myself, and
Diana hasn't.
Oh,
gotten
I'm
to
sorry.
share
You're
it.
fine. No, you're good.
I mean, honestly, I think they said it all. I mean, honestly, I don't know what else I should add. I mean, just, I guess a piece of advice is like, I've always been told as a person who's like, dream big, you know, like if people, yes, people are gonna tell you no, but what I mean is like, if you have a dream and if you believe it, you can go get it, like, I tell people, my dad, he's a dairy farmer. He works in a dairy. He's been working there for almost 37 years. His salary maybe about 45K, right? In 1 year, I almost doubled his salary. So does education make a difference? Yes. Does a degree make a difference? Yes. So like I learned from them, like I am who I am because of my parents. They, I have two brothers. They're both, in college right now. We're getting a degree. So just being able to come back and tell other families, like, hey, I know a lot of families, they tell their kids, you're just gonna be another worker, they're like, education's not worth it. I was the Sonic car hop for most of my undergrad and grad school. Sometimes I sell car hop back in HICO, I have my local customers. I am not embarrassed of where I come from. I'm super proud, I don't forget where I came from. And just as a parent, what I learned from my parents, telling them like, you need an education, you need to be better. And I know that sometimes families don't do that with other kids. They just tell them, you just get a job, just, and that's good, maybe you don't want to get a degree, that's fine too. I'm not saying you can't do other things, but education doesn't make a difference. And at least, hey, like you said, maybe I don't want to do engineering tomorrow. It's okay. Maybe I can get another job, but I do have that major. It shows people, like y'all were saying, that you can work. Like, Isaac has a mechanical degree, but he's working for TxDOT. It shows that we can do more than one thing. You're not just set in stone.
Okay, Chair.
Sorry. One thing that I probably every day talk with honor students about is imposter syndrome. And y'all are young professionals, recent graduates, honor students, all three things that can probably enhance imposter syndrome. And I try really hard not to, I think all of our honor students are extremely impressive. Multiple times I've told myself not to make Jordyn uncomfortable, whenever I let her know how amazing her senior research project was.
She talks about your senior
I
research
do.
project all the
Every
time.
time. Yours was my first one. It was the first one and it was incredible. I know there was a black box. I know you saved like $300 per student. And I know you showed us really cool stuff.
Like
Do I understand it? No.
$3,000 per.
Okay, I'm gonna have to adjust it. I don't, but I can tell you made an impact right away as an undergrad. And so a lot of our students are like that. They're doing so many impressive things. But whenever I try to help them see that, I don't know that I'm communicating it correctly. And then I worry I'm adding to their stress because then they're like, oh, I'm gonna have to live up to that. So I guess one part is for them, but also for me. How can we help them overcome that imposter syndrome without adding onto their stress of perceived expectations? That's kind of a difficult question.
How, that's a big question.
Or speaking from your personal opinion.
I just want to add that Jordyn was, team of 4, 3 others are guys.
Right.
And she was leading the team.
Of course she was. She was.
Well, it's a hard one. If there's no answer, that is fine.
No, it's an interesting point because it's pretty spot on. Like even now I'm like, ooh, do I really know what I'm doing? Am I really supposed to be here? And a lot of the times at some point it's gonna have to be like a self inflection, a self-discovery kind of thing. Because at one point you just have to learn to remember like what all you've accomplished. Like it's nice to have people acknowledge it and they can rattle off everything you've done all day long, but until you acknowledge the impression, like, wow, I actually did all this, like I made it here, then that sense isn't always gonna go away. And it still hasn't. Like I'm not saying it's healed, but it will go away eventually when you understand like that you can do it, that you have already done it and that you made it to that point. If y'all had something else to add.
No, I think I agree with her. I mean, like last year was my first year working. I felt lost every day, until now it's actually clicky because I feel like you get to a point where you'll finally get to realize that it makes sense. And then like you said, you gotta learn how to trust yourself. The same thing like in school, like when as a freshman, you're still like, oh my gosh, I have to study super hard. And then the older you get more confidence. You're like, okay, it's a senior level course, but you're prepared for it. I feel like same way in the workflow. First you're kind of confused because each company does their own thing, but then the more you work, you'll start learning. You'll be like, okay, that's how we do things.
The thing, kind of going off like how you all could implement it, it won't be like I wouldn't put it as, oh, like you're able to do this, this, and this. Like instead of listing off accomplished, it'd be like, look at what all you have accomplished, like sort of invite that self-reflection. And I think that would just kind of bring that thought process in more naturally instead of feeling like, oh, I did all this, now what? It kind of just changed that inflection.
It's a little bit of a philosophical
It
question.
is.
Not sure I have much to add. I think really a lot of people who go into the more high demand, like programs, like honors, are going to be people who get some sort of self-fulfillment out of achieving things. And it's like a high you get after you do something. It feels wonderful, but then it's like, well, what am I gonna do next? What do I have to do next to get this feeling? Yeah, it just keeps getting bigger. And so you've gotta really, I think, be able to find and define your self-worth outside of that. It can't just be, here are the grades I got, here's the presentation I did, here's the research I did. You have to be able to define your self-worth outside of that, who you are as a person. And I think that's really, for me at least, that was the best thing that helped me kind of get over that. And believe me, it's not over.
To answer the what can y'all do, no clue. I can only tell you what helped me. One is, and this happened by circumstance, this was not planned. Doing things in which you can experience multiple failures is helpful to, at least it was to me personally, because most of the time the fear of failure is far worse than the actual failure itself.
Yeah.
And learning through just absolutely failing multiple times. Oh yeah, this ain't so bad. It's not great, but I'll live. That helps me a lot, and I'm not saying that was planned or anything, it just kind of happened that way. And a thing that weirdly helps me is reminding myself that there's no absolute, this is set in stone and that it has to happen this way, and if I do this and this and this and this and this and this and this to get to my ultimate end goal, if I don't do that, I'm a horrible person and forever. Just kind of going, you know, this is my path that I think I want to do right now, and I like it, and I like where I'm going, but there's no writing anywhere that says I have to do this. Being okay with plans changing, to me, helps me have less anxiety about what could or might happen. Yeah, don't know if that was helpful.
Yeah, absolutely, it's very helpful, thank you.
I didn't, and he didn't.
You're right, he didn't.
Okay, so what was your favorite class outside of the, and it can't be that math class where.
Differentiation.
Honestly, that might be my answer, but
That would be.
I love that.
Were you in the band here?
Yes, I was gonna say my favorite class was the wind ensemble.
Ah, there you go.
I was only able to do it 1 year because I just.
And
did
what
not-
instrument?
Tuba.
Tuba.
Yeah, I was in the wind ensemble and the marching band my
Who was
first
your
year.
director?
Dr. Purdue,
Oh,
something,
uh,
Purdy, something, I forget his last,
Anthony.
I think he left.
He did.
Fairly.
Yeah, almost all.
It is not often that I lose track of time, but the fact that we are 45 minutes over.
Wow.
It's just sort of snuck up on me.